How's it going, everyone? Welcome to this video. Today we're going to be going over how you can achieve 100% crit in Monster Hunter Wilds. I do want to mention that this is probably not 100% like, oh, absolute meta, this is how you get your crit. This is just the way I have found out personally. I think part of the fun of playing Monster Hunter Wilds is figuring this all out for yourself and going about it the way you want to instead of searching out like a tutorial on how to do it, which is kind of ironic because I'm sharing my way of doing it, so this is you going out and looking. So anyways, let's just get into the build. Alright, so these are the armor pieces we got. We got the Core Helm B, Arc Vulcan Mail B, Fulgur Vambraces B, and Arc Vulcan Coil, as well as the Gore Greaves B. Now, a couple things to look at the build so far, real quick, is this is what we've got. We've got Critical Eye 5, Power Prolonger 3, Handicraft. This can all be switched out up here on your weapon, depending on what weapon you're running. But for Switch Axe, Power Prolonger is usually pretty good to run. The build right now, we're looking at Weakness Exploit. You pretty much 100% need this, because whenever you are hitting wounded or weak spots, you get 30% for weak spots and an extra 20% for wound spots. So that by itself gets you 50% affinity. So that is very, very important. Agitator level 3. Couldn't manage to find a way to get this any higher. It gives us an extra 7% affinity with an extra, I believe, what is it, 15% damage? It's an extra 12 damage. So this is the highest I can manage to get. Agitator gives us that extra 7% whenever the monster is enraged. Pretty important, but if you wanted to, you could switch it out for like counter jewels or like burst jewels. If you really wanted that extra damage, you could. Challenger isn't 100% needed, but it is nice to have that little bit more consistent of affinity. And then we've got maximum might. It's actually really nice because the Fulgur Vambraces, it comes with 1 level of maximum might already, and then 2 level 2 slots, which I just put 2 mighty jewels on, so that just by itself gets us maximum might level 3, which gives you 30% more affinity when your stamina is kept full for a period of time. So that is very important. This is, like, as far as I know, the meta way to keep your affinity high, other than Weakness Exploit. And then I've got Divine Blessing just for the extra level 1 slots that I've got on the set. And then we got Antivirus, which is very important that you have 2 pieces of the Gormagala armor equipped. So you have, I think it's called Black Eclipse. Yeah, it infects you with Frenzy when against large monsters. And then when you cure your Frenzy, you get an extra 15% affinity. Now going over the jewels I've got, I know I kind of already went over some, but this is pretty interchangeable for your weapon. I'm running an Arshan weapon, or an Artian weapon, however people like to pronounce it. I pronounce it Arshan because T-I-A-N, Martian, Arshan. Makes sense to me, so I pronounce it Arshan. I know they pronounce it Ardian in the game. I recommend having at least 1 critical eye jewel. I've got 2 to get me to level 5 critical eye, because that gets you an extra 20% just base. So in my opinion, just level 3 might not be enough, but the whole point of the build is to get crits, right? So you 100%, and I think I might do this as well, just put on a critical boost jewel, because that gets you an extra 34% damage on your crits, which without critical eye 5, you can still get 100%. It just might be a tiny bit less consistent. I don't think it matters that much. So you could definitely do this. And then since I have got Switch Axe, I've got an Enhancer and a Handicraft tool. That way I can keep Power Prolonger on. For the helmet, I've got Challenger. We don't get any agitator from any of our armor pieces, by the way. I have it only from my level 3 slots in the set. So in the helmet, the chest piece, and the legs is where I've got my agitator. For my Divine Blessing, I've got the coil and the helmet, and then, like I said, the gauntlets, 2 mighty jewels, and then for the pants, we've got 2 sane jewels. This is actually pretty important. If you're gonna make a Gormagala set, period, I think the pants is pretty important, since it comes with 1 level of anti-virus and then 2 level 1 slots, which you can just put 2 sane jewels, so that way you get antivirus level 3 just from the pants. So this one right here is pretty interchangeable. The level 2 slot that is on your chest piece, I chose to put counter just because the Switch Axe does have a counter and gets knocked back quite a bit, and whenever you have that, it just gives you plus 10. So if you hit a counter, you're doing more damage. Pretty interchangeable though. You could do like Part Breaker or whatnot, evasion. I usually like having some evade extender for the Switch Axe, but it really depends on whatever you want. I think counter was just the best thing for some extra damage. Now going over my weapon, like I said, this is pretty interchangeable depending on what weapon you like to play. I use the Switch Axe. I'm using the Mundus Altis, and going a bit into the weapon, this is what I've got on it. I used 3 attack infusion blast devices, and the reason I choose blast over paralysis is because overall I believe you get more damage out of blast, whereas paralysis, it obviously makes the monster sit still for quite a while so you can get your damage in. I think blast is better because it does a couple things. It, for one, does 150 damage proc whenever you actually proc it. It stuns the monster, like knocks them back. It can even interrupt an attack they're doing. It does a 150 damage whenever it does proc. It also breaks parts. So if you wanted, you could change this level 2 slot to a part breaker. That way you're breaking parts even more. But and then for the rolls I got from reinforcing it is I got 3 attack, 1 affinity, and 1 sharpness. If I really wanted to, I could replace that 1 affinity with another attack boost, and then it would have been a perfect weapon. That being said, I didn't want to risk letting this one go, so this one seemed good enough to me, and we are kept in white sharpness for quite a while since we did manage to get a sharpness boost. So I do want to go over that you could use Zoshia's. There is one. What the heck? I don't even think I'm in a lobby and I just heard that. Anyways, so even though you have your White Flame Torrent skill from your Zoshia weapon, where it randomly does an extra 50 damage, and that's the thing about it, is that it's random, so you don't know. It's inconsistent. We just don't know. But from what I can tell, and my testing, at least with comparing switch axes, the damage is a little bit better, but with this build, it's a little bit better in the sense of I can do a full sword gauge combo. It'll do 25,000 or 2,500 damage, and the Arshan one will do like 2,400 damage. But the difference being, I can only fit critical eye 3, only power prolonger 2, and then I put a critical boost 1, so that way we at least get the extra 28% just from level 1. So it kind of really depends if you want to rely on the White Flame Torrent giving you an extra 50 damage every now and then, or the more consistent path, in my opinion, which is an Arshan weapon, power prolonger 3, and being able to fit critical boost 3 and critical eye 1. I just think overall the decos are more important, as well as, at least with Switch Axe, getting power prolonger 3 so you can keep your sword gauge for as long as possible. So, but like I mentioned before, in terms of pure raw, I think Zoshia's does do a little bit more, but it doesn't get like the blast proc, it doesn't get the monster stun, as well as, like I said, you get keep the power prolonger, you get critical boost 3 and critical eye 3. So I prefer Arshan, but I think Zoshia's does get a teeny bit more damage, but I think it evens out because we have power prolonger 3 and critical boost 3. So I prefer Arshan, but it's really up to you. But anyways, we're gonna get into a hunt here. I did pre-record the hunt using another expert jewel in place of this critical jewel, so you will hear me mention that I should use the critical jewel. I think I did change my mind that you should use a critical jewel here instead of an expert jewel, but just know in the hunt that is shown, it is using critical eye 5 instead of critical eye 3, which I have here. I do believe you will get more damage if you do keep critical boost 3 here. So let's get right into the hunt. Always grab a wiggly leechy, that way your maximum might uptime is upheld. Also, our test subject here is going to be dear old Raphalos. No, sir. Pay attention to how many pink crit signs we got. I as well have the Monster Hunter overlay mod thing, so it does tell me how often I am critting. Hitting wounded spots makes us hit for 50% more weakness exploit. Hit with Unbridled Slash. And of course he gets away. That's the thing about Mighty, or Maximum Might on Switch Axe, is that you do all of your evading with your roll, but once you get up next to a monster, that's when That's when you get your stamina back. But if you keep going away the second I want to do Unbridled Slash. And get down here. We could be getting a lot more damage out of this with the critical jewel. But for now, I'm just showing off the fact that you can get well over 100% crit. That's right. Boom. 500 just on Here's Some Discharge. And Unbridled Slash doing a lot more. Ouch. Blast. And he's out of here.
You did it!
Alright, and he's down just like that. Alright, so according to my stats, we hit 4 crits 88.8% of the time, which is anything over, I feel like 60% is pretty dang good. If you do want a little bit more damage, you definitely for sure can't switch out Critical Eye 3 or for just like a critical boost jewel, which I might do myself because I feel like that extra damage, that extra like 34% damage on crits is very important for a build like this, so I might do that myself. So anyways, that's it for the crit build. I plan on coming out with a Switch Axe guide a little bit down the future, but I kind of wanted to get this build out first. So anyways, thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and I will see you later. Bye bye.